The Death-Defying Dare-Devilish Deeds of the Outlaws, Buster and Mooney. Written by Georgia Leininger, illustrated by Jo Gershman. Once when the world was wilder, in a tiny town on the tip of a bay, carved by the sea like a half-moon, where only the roughest and rowdiest dared to roam, there lived a girl, and the boy who loved her. Chapter 1. Her name was Mooney. Her hair was long, soft waves of pale gold that shone silver in bright sunlight. She was tall, with long, strong legs and eyes the color of melted milk chocolate. She loved more things than there are stars in the night sky. She loved warm snuggles and peanut butter treats, chew toys, tug-of-war with old smelly socks, her favorite blanket, running in the rain, being wild and silly, and jumping in the waves on the beach. Oh, the beach she loved more than all things, except one. His name was Buster. His fine, sleek coat was covered in splotches of tan, white, and black. He had short, stout legs and wide, long ears. They were bigger than any other ears he had ever seen. His eyes were auburn, flecked with gold, and he loved to sing. Long, loud, loping songs could be heard from their little house by the sea at any hour, day or night. He would make up songs for being bored, songs for asking thunderstorms to go away, for making the pain of his ear infection stop, and songs for her. For when Buster would sing, Mooney would dance. Buster was 5 years old, and Mooney was 7, much wiser in the ways of wandering. Many would call Mooney a golden retriever and Buster a basset hound, but those were just labels. Buster and Mooney knew exactly who they were: outlaws, adventurers, partners. They lived with a young woman named Billy in a tiny gray house with a large backyard and 2 old apple trees a mile away from the beach. Mooney loved that the scent of the sea rolled in through every window. Buster loved chewing on the small, crunchy, and sweet apples every autumn. Another golden retriever named Bear lived with them. At the very wise age of 10, Bear was tall, sweet, and clumsy. And he always behaved. He loved his toys and treats and cuddles on the couch. Any place where he couldn't find those was no place he wanted to be. So Bear never broke out, never explored, never went on adventures. He simply lounged in the yard every day and waited for Billy to come home every afternoon and take him for his walk. That was simply not enough for Buster and Mooney. So every once in a while, when the opportunity struck, or the urge was too strong to resist, they would escape, and oh, the adventures they have had. Chapter 2. It was a fine Wednesday morning when their day started out as usual. After a tasty breakfast, Billy gave them all hugs goodbye and left for work. Now, if the sun hadn't shone quite so brightly that morning, if the breeze hadn't sailed the aroma of the sea right under Mooney's nose, and if there had just been more smelly socks for Buster to chew up, then maybe they would have stayed home. But the call to adventure was too strong, and after the hard rain the night before, the dirt along the wooden fence was just too soft and ripe for digging. And digging was Mooney's specialty. She picked her spot where the mud had settled an inch below the bottom of the fence, Buster jumped for joy and sang while she dug. As the dark, damp dirt flew behind her, Bear scolded Mooney. "What are you doing? You know the rules. You two will get in trouble again. Stay home." "Oh, hush. We'll be fine. And back before she gets home," Mooney replied. "You have never made it home before her," Bear argued. "Anything is possible." Mooney launched a shower of dirt behind her. Finally, she dove into the fresh, damp hole and wiggled and scooted and slid on her golden belly with the fence boards digging into her head, then her back, then her rump, and finally she was free. She zoomed along the fence and barked for joy. She bounded toward the road, spraying wet mud everywhere, when suddenly she stopped. Where was Buster? Adventures just weren't worth venturing without him. Rules weren't worth breaking without him. This wide, wondrous world held no joy for Mooney without him. So back she turned and found poor Buster wedged in the hole and whining softly. Only his long, mud-caked ears and narrow head had made it through. Buster was not a master wiggler like Mooney. "I'm stuck," he sighed sadly. "Don't give up," she said. "Anything is possible." She dug under and around him, widening the hole. No rock or root or blade of grass was safe from Mooney till Buster was free. Finally, when she had dug a hole deep enough even for Big Bear to wiggle through, which, as we know, he had no desire to do, Buster was out. He shook the mud out of his wide, flapping ears, and then they bounded down the sun-baked sidewalk. "Where to today?" Buster asked happily. "To the beach," Mooney replied. "Hooray," Buster called, a little less excited than before. Fearlessly, they crossed Highway 1, ignoring the cars that screeched to a halt and honked angrily at them. They ran past block after block of small pastel homes until the houses stopped and gave way to the warm beach. When Mooney saw the blue-green waves frosted with foam slide up the sand, she raced to them. Buster could barely keep up. Boldly, she jumped into the sea and barked happily as the cold, salty water washed over her. While Mooney danced and twirled in the waves, Buster sat patiently on the cool, damp sand and watched her play. The sea was a little too big and strong for him. With his short legs and long body, he was a poor swimmer. And sadly, the salt water hurt Buster's ears. But watching Mooney play was so much fun. He sang his loudest and happiest song while she tackled each new gray-green wave that greeted her. At last, when Mooney had had her fill of salt water and sand, she flopped down beside Buster for a rest. "So, where's our next adventure?" she asked. "It's lunchtime. How about the school?" Buster loved babies and children, especially when they shared their snacks with him. Really, any snack was wonderful, except maybe celery sticks, too stringy in between his teeth. "Let's go," Mooney barked, and off they trotted to the elementary school, just down the road from their house. Chapter 3. "Doggies!" A little girl in pigtails shouted happily while she flew high on her swing. The other children around her in the large, bright playground turned to look where she pointed and saw Buster and Mooney on the other side of the fence. "Yay!" some of them called as they ran over to the dogs. Before they reached the fence, one girl wisely warned, "We should be careful with dogs we don't know. They're probably nice, but we should still be safe." The others agreed, but one boy added, "But maybe we could give them a treat. I still have half my PB&J sandwich in my pocket." "Weren't you just sitting in the sandbox? Ew!" said another girl. "It's okay. I bet they'll like it." Quickly, he pulled the squished plastic bag out of his back pocket and gently ripped the flattened sandwich into 2 pieces. "Here you go." He pushed each half through the fence. Buster gobbled up his half. Mooney sniffed hers skeptically before eating it. A teacher walked over to the crowd of children pressed up against the fence. "Hi guys, what's going on?" he asked kindly. "Teacher, these dogs need help," one girl replied. "And he just gave them dirty food," she tattled on the boy. The tall man looked down at the 2 dogs covered in sand and panting happily. He smiled. "Haven't I seen you 2 before?" "Okay, kids, the bell just rang. Time to go back to class. I'll take care of these guys." "Aw," the children protested. "Go on now," he called as they reluctantly walked away. He opened a gate a few feet away and knelt down to pet the dogs and read their tags. Little did he know how friendly Buster and Mooney were and how much they loved kisses. In an instant, Buster launched himself onto the teacher's chest, covering his mauve tie and deep blue shirt with large, muddy footprints. Okay, settle down," he laughed, and gently pushed Buster and Mooney away after they had given his short brown beard several sandy, wet kisses. He saw the numbers on their tags and pulled out his cell phone. When no one answered, he left messages. "Well, you can't stay here, and I can't let you get hurt or hit by a car," the teacher told Mooney and Buster while he pet them. "It's my prep period, so I guess I'll take you 2 daredevils to the Humane Society." He called the school office to let them know what happened, and then the local Humane Society. Buster and Mooney followed him happily to his green truck and jumped inside as soon as he opened the door. Buster rested his long head in the teacher's lap, and off they went. Chapter 4. "Their tags say their names are Buster and Mooney. I called the numbers and left messages," the teacher explained to the woman at the front desk of the Humane Society. "They're very sweet, but I'm sorry, I have to go back to work soon." "No problem at all. Thank you for bringing them in so they can stay safe," the woman said. "Till next time, you little outlaws." The man gently pet both dogs once more and left. "Okay, cuties, let's see if you have microchips." Buster and Mooney looked at her quite confused while she softly passed a scanner over each of their backs. Buster slipped her hand a couple kisses, just to be polite. "A microchip," she explained, "is a chip under your skin that doesn't hurt you at all. In fact, it is very important. It has your owner's information so that if you are ever lost, we can help you get safely back home. And look!" She smiled when the scanner beeped. "You have chips! Now I can see your address, owner's name, and I can call her right now." Buster and Mooney watched gratefully as the nice woman called the numbers and left more messages. "Well, cuties, until Billy gets here, we'll just have you wait with the others." As they walked down the hall, Buster could smell the cat room. "Oh, please, can we go in there?" he begged. "It's been so long since I've given a cat a bath." "Ugh," Mooney groaned. Right at that moment, another volunteer opened the door to the cat room. He had a tiny orange kitten in his hands who had just gotten her vaccinations. Buster yanked on his red leash and jumped into the room after them. The delicious aroma of cats, cat food, and kitty litter filled his nose. More excited that he could sing and as quick as he could, Buster danced around the large blue room filled with cat trees, scratching posts, and dozens of colorful toys. He saw lots of adult cats and tiny kittens, some with long, luxurious fur, and others with sleek, short coats. He gave big, wet, slurpy kisses to every cat he met. Some cats enjoyed the kisses and purred loudly. Others did not. "Buster, this is not your room. Come on." fun," the woman chided as she pulled Buster out. Mooney just waited in the hallway, disgusted. "Nice try, though. You guys go in here." The young woman opened the door, and immediately loud, boisterous barks and whines filled the air. It was a large and narrow rectangular room with rows of cages on either side of one long hallway. The floor was gray and the walls the color of hard-boiled egg yolk. With only 2 small windows at the other end of the room, there was very little fresh air. She walked them into an empty cage that had a bowl of water, 2 dog beds, and a tray of dry food. They were in between a cage full of 7 puppies and another that held only 1 small white chihuahua. "You guys be good. Hopefully your Billy will be here soon," the woman said as she locked their cage and left. Once they realized where they were and that they couldn't escape, Buster and Mooney curled up together and fell into an exhausted nap. Hours later, they were still waiting. "I want to go home," Buster whined while his tummy rumbled. "It's almost dinner time." "Me too," Mooney agreed. "You have a home?" A bouncy little tan and black puffball of a puppy in the cage next to them asked, amazed. His siblings perked up their ears and crowded in front of the chain link, pressing their paws and noses through the links to listen in. "Yes, we do. And we have a woman who loves us, and another dog named Bear, who was much smarter than we were today." Buster sighed regretfully. "We had a home too with a man. He thought he could sell us for enough money to buy a motorcycle," said the puffball puppy. "A fast and shiny one," his brother said. "But no one wanted to pay money for any of us. And after we chewed up and piddled on the couch, 'Oopsies,' his sister called out, he left us here." "I'm sorry," Mooney replied. She leaned against the fence that separated them and longed to give them all kisses and snuggles. The pale white little chihuahua on the other side of them shivered nervously as he asked, "When Billy comes to get you, do you think maybe I could come with you?" And the others cried out, "Me too, me too, me too!" Poor Buster bowed his head till his brown ears draped the cold, hard floor. "I'm sorry, my friends, but I don't know if she has room for all of you. She has 3 of us already, and we keep her quite busy," he admitted with guilt. "And our house is so small. I just don't know if it could hold any more." "But we will ask," promised Mooney. "And what's more, we will ask all of our friends too, and everyone we meet. We will do what we can to find homes for all of you." "But there are so many of us." An old tan pit bull in the corner sighed softly. Sadly, the puppies turned away and huddled in a pile together to stay warm. The tiny chihuahua slowly followed his tail, making 3 circles before curling up in the smallest ball he could make. The pit bull just sighed hopelessly, and he stared at the wall. And all the others whimpered and chattered amongst themselves, preparing for another long night ahead. "Anything is possible," Mooney promised. Confidently, she sat down beside Buster, and they watched the door and waited for it to open and their Billy to walk in and rescue them. They waited while the sunlight faded in the windows. They waited while the shadows grew longer down the center of the room. They waited while the dogs around them began to snore. "What if," Buster started to ask, "what if she's not coming? What if she doesn't know we're here? You heard the woman. We have microchips and her phone number on our collars. They have called and told her we are here. Billy will come. What if she is tired of bailing us out? What if we broke the laws too many times? What if she is too tired of our escapes to keep rescuing us?" "Never," Mooney promised. "She will never give up on us." "I hope so," Buster sighed. He thought of singing, but realized for the first time in his life that he was too sad and scared to sing. Chapter 5. Just then, the door opened. The woman in the green polo flipped on the lights, and who walked in right behind her? Buster, Mooney, oh thank goodness, Billy cried as she ran straight to them. Wiggling uncontrollably, they pressed their faces and front feet up against the gate, desperate to hug her. Buster sang for joy, and Mooney howled with glee. All the other dogs in the large room began to bark and whine so loudly the volunteer could barely hear herself say, "We called as soon as they came in. I am so sorry I wasn't here sooner. I forgot my cell phone at home today and didn't realize they were gone till I got home after work, but I came as soon as I heard your messages." The woman nodded as she opened the gate. Just glad they weren't hurt and had identification on them. They seemed like good dogs. "We all are," the other dogs barked and howled. Billy went down on her knees as Buster and Mooney snuggled into her arms. Her long blonde hair cascaded over their heads. She wept into their fur. "Oh, my darlings, I was so worried. I'm so grateful you're safe. But why again? You little escape artists, why can't you just stay home? Is home that boring?" "No," Mooney and Buster answered while trying to smother her with kisses. "It's great. In fact, let's go home." She hooked their leashes onto their collars and stood to leave. But then Mooney began to dance wildly in front of the puppies. Buster sang as loud as he could in front of the Chihuahua. They leapt up in the air in front of the pit bull's cage and raced down the aisle so that she had to chase them to the end and see all of the dogs in all of the cages. It was then that Billy realized just how big the room was and listened to all the voices desperate to be heard. "There are so many," she whispered to Buster and Mooney when she reached them. Buster howled sadly in reply. On the way out, Billy stopped to look into the cat room too, amazed at how many beautiful cats lay snuggled in little beds, waiting to find home. Chapter 6. When they got home, Billy took all 3 dogs for their usual walk around the quiet block. As the sun settled behind the horizon of the sea, the sky blazed with fiery shades of orange, pink, and purple. Listened while Buster and Mooney told him all about their adventures and the new friends they had made. "I'm so glad you're home safe," Bear said at the end of their tale. After their walk, Billy gave them all warm baths and wrapped them up in towels like little doggy burritos. She gently brushed the sand and dirt out of their fur, rubbed their rough paws, and cleaned between each of their toes. She put soothing medicine in Buster's ears and fed them all a good dinner. Bear got extra treats for dessert, which Mooney and Buster agreed was only fair. As they stretched out on their soft green and brown dog beds and snuggled with Bear, they heard their Billy on the phone. "Yes, they're home safe, thank goodness. I'm going to buy some large river rocks and concrete to line the edge of the fence this weekend. Mooney can't dig through that." Mooney's ears perked up, intrigued by the new challenge. "Was there, I saw the sweetest little Chihuahua. He made me think of your sweet old dog," she said. "Why, yes, I think he is available for adoption. There are so many wonderful dogs and cats there as well." She made more calls and texts about the animals she had seen until it was time for bed. "So, no more escapes, right?" chided Bear before yawning. "No more escapes," Buster and his girls sleepily agreed. But then, the cool scent of the sea sailed past the soft curtain of the window. It tickled Mooney's nose and tantalized her with dreams of more adventures to come. "Anything is possible," she whispered.